Hi there, I'm Scott from Sharky's Floral and Greenhouses and Beat Your Neighbor Fertilizer. And today we're talking about poinsettias. Now it's that time of year, you see poinsettias all over, and they're a beautiful plant to have in your house. But they do take some care. Now, poinsettias are a little more tricky. They're not hard, I don't want to scare you off, but poinsettias are a little bit trickier. I like to say that they're fussy. And you know, I'm a dad of a teenage daughter, and if you understand that you know a teenage daughter can be a little bit fussy, then you probably understand poinsettias pretty well. So they're not hard, but if you just understand a few things, you can kind of look at them and tell what the problem is, and it'll be a lot easier for when you have your poinsettias. So they're not an easy plant to care for, but they're not hard to, and we're gonna break that down so it's real easy for you to understand. Okay, so there's a lot of variety with poinsettias, and you can see, you know, from being surrounded here, we've got the traditional, the reds and the whites and the pinks, and but we do have, you know, in our own floral shop, we've got these, and these are genetic. They're not painted. We have the blues and purples. We have all kinds of funky colors, and actually the funny thing is these are the first to go. They're always the most popular ones, are not the traditional. You know, I kind of like the traditional colors, but you know, the people vote with their dollars, and they tend to go with the really cool stuff. And actually this blue is a white poinsettia that's painted with a special paint. It's not a floral paint, it's actually a poinsettia paint, because they found that the floral paints, poinsettias are fussy, like I said, and they did not like the floral paints. So they actually had to come up with and patent a poinsettia paint, and that's how they ended up getting all these different colors. They're really kind of cool. But anyway, there's a large variety of poinsettias that you can choose from, and of course we suggest that you get poinsettias from your local florist, floral greenhouses. The big box retailers, of course, they have them, and they're cheap. But we kind of laugh when we go out and we go to the big box retailers, and we see all these poinsettias, and they're dead, you know, and they're full of bugs, and they're just, stay away from those. You're going to bring them home, and you're just going to be disappointed, and they're probably half dead already. So go to your local florist and pick up a poinsettia from them, because they're the ones that are growing them. They're the ones that know how to grow and care for them. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. So if we can really buckle this down into two areas where people have poinsettias where they get into trouble. So I don't know if you saw this one. This poinsettia, this one's kind of looking sad, okay? And if you have a poinsettia at home that looks like this, I'm going to give you two categories, okay, that we can really diagnose. Okay, so you can see that the leaves are really drooping, and the two categories that we're going to fit, I'm going to say about 95% of the troubles, 95% of the problems that fit into that category. It's not everything, not 100%, but the two categories is going to be watering and temperature. Okay, and if you can diagnose between those two what the problem is, then you're probably 95% of having a success in getting it back on track. So this poinsettia, its problem is it's dry. Okay, so those leaves are drooping. It needs water, and it needs water soon. You know, there's not too many plants that like that cycle of going wet, dry, wet, dry, wet, dry. We want to really keep a consistent watering. And if you have a poinsettia in your home, you're probably only have to water it maybe every 2 or 3 days, and it's just going to be kind of a little splash of water. So I can feel the soil, it's absolutely dry. So I'm going to give it some water. Now I'm not going to overdo it. I'm just going to give it kind of a splash of water with my little watering can here, and not much. I'm just going to give it some, and he was really dry, and I can feel that water coming through the foil. You know, my hand's all of a sudden really cold, so that soil was really dry, and a lot of it just shed off. So I might have to come back and water it again, but we want to be careful. We don't want to overdo it. Poinsettias do not like to be overwatered. So if we're going to err kind of on the drier side. So like I said, every 2 to 3 days, check your poinsettia, and it should be getting to that drier point, and then add just a little splash of water. Now my wife really has a good analogy that she tells her customers in our floral shop, and with a regular size poinsettia like this, she says, when they're dry, they're going to feel like a bag of popcorn. That's nice and light. If they're heavy, like a bag of flour, then they're too wet. So you want to be somewhere in between there. And when that poinsettia gets to be feeling like a bag of popcorn, it's kind of light, go ahead and water it. And that really gets you into that area of keeping a safe, not too dry, not too wet. If you run into trouble and it's too wet, what you can do, and I've done this before in my greenhouse, is you might have to take that foil off, and to get the plant to dry down, they will droop just like this one where it's really dry. They will start drooping if they're too wet. Okay, so that's where that's watering. It's either too wet or too dry. They will droop. They'll look the same way, but you'll be able to tell with feeling it. Is it really light? It's dry. Is it really wet? Okay, then we overwatered it. But if you need to quickly get your poinsettia to dry down, it's too wet, go ahead and take the pot off of it, okay, and we're going to expose that root ball. And you can see this one it's pretty dark. This is right on the verge of being a little too wet. It's okay, but if it had more water, if I came along and watered it again, he would probably get to that point of being too wet. But you can get this to dry down quickly by just taking this pot off and setting it out and letting those roots and that soil to dry down. I've done this in my greenhouses before, and it works pretty nice. That if you need to kind of quickly get that plant to dry down, that's the way to do it. So watering is a big key, and like I said, it looks the same. The too wet or too dry will look like this. Now the other scenario is going to be temperature. Poinsettias do not like that big variable or temperature swing. We really need to be between like 65 to 75 degrees and try to keep that temperature right around in that middle point. If you have it by a fireplace, that's a no-no. That's going to be way too hot, and it's going to dry it out. If you have it by a doorway or something where that cold blast comes in every time you come in the door, that's a no-no. They don't like that big varying swing in temperature. Try to keep it 65 to 75 degrees. And if you drop below that, and we found this out, they will look like this. And again, it's just the poinsettia fussing that it doesn't like the cold air. I've had a whole greenhouse look like this, which is a very shocking moment. You walk into your greenhouse in the morning and all the poinsettias look like this. And all it was is I had my temperature set just a little bit too low. It was about 62 degrees. They all looked like this. I cranked that temperature up to get it more 65, 66 degrees, and they came right back up throughout the day. So they will fuss with temperature, whether it's too low or too high. Try to really give them a set, and if you have a programmable thermostat, you might want to just set it for just the same, for at least that time period. They don't like that swing. So that's really your two big areas where you can run into trouble, is the watering and the temperature. And if you get those correct, then you really shouldn't have much for problems when it comes to the poinsettias. Now, if you're grabbing a poinsettia from your local floral shop and you bring it home, maybe you got it in November or December or whatever, you'll only need to maybe fertilize like once or twice. Okay, so that's with our Beat Your Neighbor fertilizer. And by the way, this is a great stocking stuffer, and we send out a lot of these during Christmas time. People love this for a stocking stuffer. Fits perfectly in the stockings. We sell a lot of our Beat Your Neighbor fertilizer for Christmas. But anyway, if you're fertilizing your poinsettia, you probably only need like once or twice to give them those nutrients, and just keep that fertilizing is just the same as watering. Maybe it's every 2 or 3 days. Go ahead and fertilize, and water just like normal, maybe once or twice throughout that time period. If you're keeping your poinsettia and you want to see if you can keep it around till next year, then you'll probably start fertilizing a little heavier starting about March or April, and growing that throughout the summertime. And you have to remember, the poinsettia will well, usually it'll be green throughout the summer, okay? It won't be red. The colors for the poinsettia is actually, it's a timing with the sunlight. So the way that the greenhouses that grow these, they have to have a certain amount of time of darkness during the night to get that, to trigger the poinsettia to go to its color. And you can kind of see this. And if you see this at your, your local floral shop, this green leaf is turning red. Okay, so it's green, and it's getting that color for its Christmas time, and that's what it would. Those bottom leaves will turn all red like this, and that's its normal color. So that's the watering. That's the fertilizing, keeping the temperature right in your house, and also you want to give them kind of a bright but indirect sunlight. So a nice bright window, but not directly in the sun. That'll help keep it nice and healthy for you. Now, something we always hear during this time is, and it just circulates the internet every year, and it's false. Are poinsettias dangerous to your pets? Okay, and the simple answer is no. Do they have some toxicity to them? Yes, it's very, very mild, okay? And where it comes from is, I don't know if you can see this, when these break, you can see the little white here, that's in their leaves, and it's almost like it bleeds a little bit white, but that's where that toxic chemical is, but it's very, very mild. So, and studies have been done and really have debunked this, that it'll kill your pets. Your pet would have to eat like 500 poinsettia leaves for it to actually, for something to happen, okay? But if you have a puppy, or if you have a pet that is notorious for eating plant leaves, use your judgment. Maybe you don't want a poinsettia. It would take so much for them to consume for that to actually be a problem. But use your own judgment. If you just don't want to, chance it, that's fine. But really, it's false. It's false information that gets circulated on the internet every Christmas. We see that all the time. It would take a lot. And I've even tried to get my dogs to try to chew on it, and they don't, because it has like a real bitter taste, and they just. They spit it out instantly. But, I'm sure there's some puppies that just don't care, or there's maybe some cats or whatever. But is it toxic? No, not really. There's a little bit, very mild toxicity. They would have to eat a lot of leaves for there to be a problem. So that's something that we like to tell our customers, because we get asked that all the time. And the short answer is no, it's not toxic, unless your cat would eat 500 leaves. So it would take a lot. So, enjoy the poinsettias. Don't be afraid to pick one up and try it yourself. And like when I'm out delivering flowers, a lot of people will show me, like, it's in the summer, and they're like, "Hey, Scott, take a look at my poinsettia. I kept it from Christmas," or it's 3 years old, and that's really cool. If you can get to that point, you've kind of graduated to the next level, because like I said, poinsettias are a little fussy. They're a little bit more challenging. They're not real easy. So it's kind of cool to see all these people that are able to take it and keep a poinsettia and keep it alive and blooming for the next year. So I hope those tips and tricks help you out and help you have a successful year with your poinsettias and keeping them alive and looking healthy. And I'm going to put a link in this description of this video that will take you to our blog article. And of course, that's on our beatyourneighbor.com website. And you can always go there for all the different tips and tricks, and also the different health videos for the plant health and to keep things nice and cared for around your house. Have a great day. Thanks for watching.